deck tech, I have the Mono Black Devotion deck that won the SCG Open in Baltimore this past weekend. It was played by Dan Jessup, and the first standard official deck I built was a pseudo Mono Devotion. It wasn't the greatest thing in the world because all I was using was the cards from basically Erebos, and I didn't even know a lot of the cards from N14 because it was when I just started. So I do have a place in my heart that I love Mono Black Devotion. It's just a cool archetype to play with, and it's just it's so cool how everything just works together so beautifully, and it just it makes me happy playing this deck. So for the lands that Dan has, he has 18 basic swamps. He also has 4 copies of Mutavault because Mutavault is awesome and it's good in pretty much any deck you play. It is such a good card. So 4 copies of Mutavaults, and he also has 2 copies of Temple of Deceit, mostly just for the scry. He doesn't splash any blue or anything like that, but that scrying ability is fantastic. Yes, it's such a good, it's good enough to put in just for the scry ability. He also has 1 new card, well, it's a reprint, but 1 card from N15, Urborg's Tomb of Yawgmoth, and it's a legendary land, so you can only have 1, and he only has 1 copy of it in his entire deck. But it's really cool because of its its combination with Mutavault. What it does, it makes each land is also a swamp in addition to its other types of lands, so you get a Mutavault tapping for swamps, which is pretty sweet. So yeah, it's really cool in this deck, but he does only have 1 copy because of that legendary rule. But I mean, if he gets it out, that's fine. If not, you know, you don't have to, it's not that big of a deal not to play it. So that's his mana base. For creatures, he has only a few creatures, 4 different creatures, and a play set of each of them, so 16 total creature cards. And for me, that's, I don't know, I like playing creature heavy decks because I'm more aggro, and it's different, it's weird for me not to play with a full, mostly creatures, but what he lacks in creatures, he definitely makes up for in removal. But the creatures are pretty fantastic, and the ones that are in here are awesome. So first off, he has 4 copies of Desecration Demon. This card is da bomb. It's a flying 6/6 for 4 mana. And I mean, at the beginning of each turn, your opponent can sack a creature to give it a +1/+1 counter and tap it. But what's cool about that is even though they're taking care of it for the moment by discarding that creature, they're just making it bigger. And once they run out of creatures, they're going to die with this huge flying Desecration Demon if they can't handle it. I mean, this card, you have to take care of this card. You just can't, your opponent can't get around leaving that and letting it attack you. It's such a big baddie. I'm going to be so sad when it's no longer in standard because this card is so fun to play with. So he has 4 copies of Desecration Demon. He also has 4 copies of Gary, Grey Merchant of Asphodel, and it's 5 mana, and it has 3 colors and 2 black, which is awesome because it'll give 2 devotion. And so whenever it enters the battlefield, you get to gain the number of life that you have worth of devotion, and your opponent loses that much life. And that is the way I think this deck, one of the ways it wins, is by draining you with Gary's. And I think that's really cool. And it also has a 2/4 body, so you can block stuff with it, and it's pretty sweet that way. So there's 4 copies of those because why wouldn't you have 4 copies of those? He also includes 4 copies of Nightveil Specter. 3 mana, they all have to be black, so it does hurt a little if you get a Mutavault in one of your, your opening hand with the 3, so you can't play it on turn 3, but that devotion count for the 3 devotion is so good. So good! For real, so good. So it's 3 mana, it's a 2/3 flying creature, and, oh my goodness, his ability is the most amazing thing ever. Like, ever. 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 It's awesome. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you get to exile the top card of their library, and then you can play those cards exile. So you can play lands if you draw them, and you can play their cards if you draw them. Oh, it's so beautiful. It's just a beautiful piece of work, because if you can get it right and get the mana that you need from them, and they're not drawing the mana they need, and they're not drawing the cards you need, you can play their spells on them, and it's just, it's such an evil, beautiful card. It's so good. So he has 4 copies of that. He also has 4 copies of Packrat. Now this is an aggressive little bugger. It's a bugger. 2 mana for a rat. That what you can do is you discard, or you pay 3 mana and discard a card, and you get to put a copy of Packrat onto the field. So it's devotional count towards your devotion counts on it, because it's a copy of the card and not a token, which is nice. But its power and toughness are equal to the number of rats you control. Your Mutavault can also be a rat. So you can pump these suckers up till they're huge. Like, huge rats! They're so cool. And they can get really aggressive really fast, and they're just dirty and mean. Anyway, so he has 4 copies of pack rats. Alright, so that's it. That's all the creatures he has. That's it. It doesn't seem like a lot, and because it's not a lot of creatures. But, like I said, he makes for it up in removal and spells. Alright, so for his enchantments, he has 3 copies of Underworld Connections. This card is awesome. It's 3 mana, 1 colorless, and 2 black, so 2 devotion, because it's going to be staying on the battlefield, and devotion is important in this. But basically, you get to enchant a land, tap, pay 1 life, and draw a card. Yeah, it's a card drawing engine in black. It's awesome, awesome, awesome. And he has 3 copies in his main deck, and the 4th one is in his sideboard, because it's that good of a card. Drawing cards for life is like the perfect trade-off in black. It doesn't even matter. It's so good. He also includes 3 copies of Bile Blight, awesome removal, 2 black mana for give all other creatures, give target creature and all other creatures with the same name, -3/-3 until end of turn. So that's really sweet and awesome, and you can chain this, and it works so well against token generators because they all have the same name, and it's so beautiful when you get to play it on like an Elspeth and kill all the soldier tokens. It's glorious. Alright, so 3 copies of Bile Blight. He also has 2 copies of Devour Flesh, 2 mana, 1 colorless and black, and target player has to sacrifice a creature. They do gain life equal to the toughness of that creature, but you don't really care that much if you have a huge creature you can't handle. You just get rid of it that way. So 2 copies of Devour Flesh. He also has 4 copies of Hero's Downfall, 1 mana, 1 colorless, 2 black mana, so 3 total, and you can destroy a target creature or a planeswalker, and since these past couple of sets have been very planeswalker heavy, and those planeswalkers are really good, and everyone wants to play those planeswalkers, this card is awesome against that. Yes, that's why he has all 4 in his main deck, because it doesn't matter if they have a creatureless deck, you can kill the planeswalkers that they're using with this card. It's that good. So 4 copies of that. He also has 1 copy of Ultimate Price. It's 2 mana, 1 colorless, and a black to destroy a mono-colored creature. So, unfortunately, it doesn't work against Nightveil Specter or anything like that, but there's a lot of good targets out there to get rid of that with that. He also has 2 copies of this pretty cool M15 card that I'm excited to play with because it looks really cool. 2 mana for Sign and Blood. It's sorcery. Target player gets to draw 2 cards and loses 2 life. But like I said, card drawing engine, you can afford 2 life for 2 cards. Because when you throw a Gary out there, you're going to be gaining life. And it's awesome. So 2 copies of that. He also has 4 copies, of Thoughtseize, because Thoughtseize is also awesome. This deck has just a ton of awesome cards in it, which is white 1. Huh, would you imagine that? But 4 copies of Thoughtseize, 1 black mana, you got your opponent reveals your hand, you get all that beautiful information and see what they're playing with, and then you can sculpt your turns so beautifully around that. That in of itself is awesome. But the fact that you also get to have them discard a card, you lose 2 life, but they discard a card and are down, oh, it's such a beautiful thing to do. Play this on turn 1 or 2 and just start destroying them, and like I said, sculpting your turns, and it's a beautiful card. If you have a black deck and you're not playing this, you better have a good reason, because it's so good. Alright, so he has 4 copies of that. Alright, so that's his main deck, and like I said, it's pretty good. I really like it. I really like it a lot. For his sideboard, he also has 3 copies of Lifebane Zombie, 1 mana, 2 color, or 1 colorless, 2 black, so 3 mana for a 3/1 Intimidate, which is fantastic against those awful big beastie decks that have creatures on the board that you don't want to handle, because 3 damage on the board, because it's got Intimidate, which is sweet. It also, when it enters the battlefield, you get to look at your opponent's hand and exile just have them, exile a white creature card, white or green creature card that they have in their hand, which is fantastic because those are usually the decks you're going to be wanting to play Lifebane Zombie with, because of the Intimidate factor, and they have creatures, and the fact that then you can just exile one of the creatures that they were going to play. It's pretty sweet. He also includes an extra copy of Underworld Connections, and he has 2 copies of Doomblade. 2 mana to destroy target non-black creature. He doesn't put these in his main deck just because if you're doing a mirror match or same color versus, it's useless. And he's trying to make sure that his main deck is as ubiquitous as possible. So he has 2 of those in his sideboard. He also includes 2 copies of Pharika's Cure, 2 black mana to deal 2 damage to target creature. You gain 2 life. That's going to help amazingly against all those aggro decks where they're going to want to get creatures out really fast, and you can just Pharika Cure the crap out of them because no one wants to play aggro against aggro when they've got a good hand. I like playing aggro, but not against it when it's a good hand. So, another copy of Ultimate Prize. And also, he has 1 copy of Erebos, God of the Dead, 4 mana for a 5/7 indestructible enchantment legendary awesome god creature dude. He also has a card drawing engine on him, 2 mana, 2 life, 1 card. This deck is so cool with the amount of card drawing you can, and it's in black, which is fantastic. He also, Erebos makes it so your opponent can't gain life at all. Like, no matter what they do, they can't gain life. It's fantastic against all those control players who are using Sphinx's Reg and all that, Sphinx's Rev and all that crap, because he just basically says, you can have the cards, but you don't get the life. Ha! So, he's pretty much a jerk, and he's pretty awesome. He also includes 1 copy of Liliana Vess, 5 mana, 3 colorless, and 2 black. For this awesome Planeswalker from M15. I'm really excited to play with all these cool Planeswalkers. It's gonna be, it's gonna be cool. So what she has, her +1 ability is target player discards a card, which is mean. And any way you look at it, it's mean. -2, you get to search your library for a card, then you shuffle and you put that card on top. So you're basically setting up your draw and getting exactly what you need at that point. And her -8 ability, oh my goodness, this would be so much fun to do on anyone, anywhere. You get to put all creature cards from all graveyards onto the battlefield under your control. Can you imagine that in a Commander game? Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Her minus ability is awesome, and if I ever get the opportunity to ever do that, I think my life will be satisfied. So she's pretty cool, and he has 1 copy in her sideboard. He also includes 4 copies of Duress, 1 mana to have a sorcery. Target opponent has to reveal their hand, which is awesome. Anything that gives you information about what your opponent is playing is a fantastic card in and of itself. It's beautiful. So, and then you get to choose a non-creature, non-land card from it, and they'd have to discard that. This card will definitely be going into my discard deck. Duress and Thoughtseize, along with a couple copies of Liliana, because that fact that they discard it, and you get all that information from their hand is beautiful. It really is. I really love playing mono black, like I said. It's a lot of fun, and it's one of those decks that I think you can start off a beginner with, and once they get it, they can still continue to play it and improve, and it just becomes this more complex entity. It's glorious. I love it so much. Let me know what you think of this in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe for more.